Will do. It is. We are recording. And do you want me to do slides, John, or do you got them there?
Oh, I have them, but I'll take. What would you prefer? You want to do them?
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah. Let's just give it a looking good. Hey, Sharon.
We just had a great two-team meeting.
Nice.
Nice.
Fired up.
Awesome. Let's see who we got here. Interesting. So we got about 18. Do you what is university time, Doug? Do you give it to 5 after?
No, we start as quickly as possible so we don't reward people for showing up late. So it's a savage
But
world.
I'm generally the one that's getting rewarded. So let's do this. Okay, you're recording, Chris?
Yes, we're recording, and you
Are
should
we
see
gonna do a
slides.
musical number? Welcome, everybody, and thank you for showing up on these very, very crazy times. This is our third town hall in this most incredible year. And we just wanted to get everybody back together. I mean, we've come a long way in terms of recruiting new teams, reviving old teams, and with its very, very different environment. And what we wanted to do is just get together, kind of see how everybody's doing, and start plotting what we can do to help people, be successful and enjoy this. So with that, anything, let's see, who do we have from our kind of leadership is Doug and Chris. Anybody want to throw something in as a welcome? Oh.
Yeah, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for making the time. I hope this is productive and rewarding. We got, I think, only have about 5 or 6 slides, which we might be able to go through fairly quickly. And there's a good chunk of time at the end for discussion. So I don't want to say keep your questions yourself, but please keep your questions in mind and save them up for the end, unless it's really a pressing issue.
Does anybody have a pen I can borrow? Okay, let's go. Here's what we have as an agenda in that same spirit. Oh, or Chris, did you want to add anything? Or
Nope.
anybody else want to add anything?
Nope. Sounds good.
So here's what we're thinking about today. And as Doug just said, is, we can go anywhere anybody needs. We will use our, best, most rigid timekeeping, anything goes. So I was going to give everybody an update on the team and the hub story and, how that's actually shaken out in terms of kind of from the perspective of the frame around the grant that we got. Chris is going to do, he ran that survey, which was very, very enlightening to us. And we'll throw up a couple of stats on it, but then mostly just want to hear from people. And then we'll talk about, what are the new plans for COVID, because this is really changing everything. And Douglas will tell us what we know and what we don't know. And then I'd like to have a discussion about what help people need and some resources and how we do that. And then it'll be a free-for-all. And we'll talk a little bit about what's coming down the pike and anything else that comes to anybody's mind. Okay, so feel free to add something into the agenda or go get a snack when it's an agenda item you don't care about. All right, with that, any questions, suggestions on content that you don't see? Don't be shy. All right, let's go then, Chris.
Ava has a question.
Yeah, sure. How did you know that?
Clever.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was pointing to a vitamin water for my mom to grab, not a question. Sorry.
So clever, Doug. So clever.
Hey, and we really are appreciative that we've got team members here. So just as a reminder, I think most people know about the grant, but just a 30-second update is that at the end of last year, Douglas and I got together and applied for something called a STEM equity grant from FIRST. And the idea was to try to help spread any of the FIRST programs, because there's 3. There's the Lego League for younger kids. There's FIRST Tech Challenge, which is what we're focusing on. And then there's the Big Robots, which is FIRST Robotic Challenge. We applied for a grant to help spread FTC across the state of Vermont. And the whole idea of these grants are to try to reach underserved and underrepresented groups. And as it was in the past, we had somewhere between 13 and 16 FTC teams, existing FTC teams, but they were by and large, a lot of them were concentrated either in sort of Burlington, Rutland, or Montpelier area. And so our goal, we successfully applied for something that would sort of try to spread that out and build more capacity in the state and include some regions and some communities that weren't that weren't necessarily served. So what we have here on the left, if I don't think anybody can see me pointing, but the returning FTC teams, well, we did a survey early on, and some of the teams I saw were represented here are just, ooh, look at that. That's pretty, yeah. Woo, everybody duck. So that by and large, all the teams that had participated before, gave us the indication. I think almost all of them indicated that they were going to participate again. And so that's really good. So this is the map of where they are. And you see that a lot of it, there's particularly a high concentration in Burlington. What we've been doing with a lot of help from those of you on the phone, we've been just going door to door in these very interesting times and trying to raise more awareness of FTC. And because this grant allows us to help new teams in a number of ways, including paying for the registration, buying new equipment, and covering other things, including the hubs, which we'll talk about in a second, and some other stuff. We've been working very hard to recruit new teams, and we had a budget to recruit up to 16 teams, and I'm happy to say that we were successful up to in regards that we had 16 potential teams raise their hand, get the gear, though, as we'll discuss a little bit maybe later on, some of them are still struggling, and we want to discuss that. I also want to add that the University of Vermont College of Engineering and Mathematical Sciences has really chipped in. They're a co-sponsor of the grant this year, but they are paying for the Vermont registration for the Vermont Championship. So if you see those together, if you look at that third one, Chris, can you do some lightning fireworks there? Yeah. We're actually much more geographically and much more individual. Whoa, look at that diversity. That's diversity in action. So we have a better spread. And what that means is, that what we want to do is not just for this year. This year is kind of an odd one for many reasons, but to also build capacity. And what this will do is it'll allow us to have more peer level support. And most importantly, it'll allow us to have more Vermont teams in our championship, which is going to occur, I guess, in March, Douglas, is that right? But instead of having, so many out-of-state teams coming in and necessarily winning all of our prizes. So we were really proud of that. Now, one of the ideas that we pitched in our award, because they actually, not only did they select our award, they doubled, we asked for 20,000, they gave us 40,000. But we had this concept, which we're just trying out, called hubs. And the idea that, especially in a normal year, you would have the opportunity to work with teams in your, the whole idea is to be able to do scrimmages, to be able to try your robot in co-opetition with other robots nearby, not just for the first time at the championship. So it occurred to us, because of the rural nature of the state, it's not always easy for somebody to get to, they were all done, say, in Heinsberg or something. So we came up with this idea of hubs where we're going to have local groupings of teams that all could share, like the playing field. That would be the tiles and the surrounds, and would be able to get together and actually physically compete against each other a couple of times and build some local community. Now this year, as you're going to hear, that's a little bit different, but we were able to, for the four teams that kind of in the four corners of the state, if you will, they will have those game fields, et cetera. And we're going to find a way of making sure that we can, run some virtual scrimmages and that you could borrow the layout, et cetera. But our intent is in subsequent years, those will actually be very vibrant sub-communities. And if you can squint, you can actually see that they are more or less, they're well positioned for serving the large groups of communities. So it's a pretty good story. Anybody have questions or stuff to add around this story about the teams and hubs? So we're pretty close. We're somewhere between 28 and 32 teams now in the state, which is pretty nice. And I
Fantastic.
really appreciate everybody's help in doing that. All right. So, Chris,
So
let's
howdy,
hit the
everybody.
next thing.
I'm Chris Callahan. I'm one of the coaches down in Bennington, in the Southwest Hub. We have two teams, two brand new teams, all with all new coaches and all new team members. So it's exciting, for sure. And we're really grateful for all the support that we've had so far from everybody. You know, whether it's John and Doug, but also in the Slack community and from FTC. So anyway, in talking with John, Doug, and Kimberly, we thought it would be good to get a bit of a survey out to the new and returning teams to try to get a sense for where everybody's at, and what's going well and what folks might be struggling with. Just to recap, we have 24 total teams by my count, and we have 14 of which are new and 10 are returning. That's a total of 144 students, roughly evenly split between new and returning. You may all remember the survey. If you haven't taken it yet, we can drop a link into the chat box. We'd love to hear from you still. But you may remember
Hey,
some
Chris,
of the.
can I interrupt just one second?
Yeah.
Chris, is it recording? Because I don't have an indication here that
It is recording. Yep.
Excellent. Okay,
Yep.
sorry about you.
No worries. Thanks for the check. So some of the things we were interested in is, you know, is everybody feeling as though they're able to practice gracious professionalism, for example? Are you getting FTC email blasts? Those seem to be a little bit variable. I'm not quite sure what the setup is on that. Are you able to collaborate in person? We know there are teams struggling to find a way to either have space or navigate restrictions to collaborate in person. Have you been able to recruit a team? There are some folks struggling there. So on and on, you know, by and large, it feels like folks are generally doing okay. We do know there are specific teams that are struggling with specific things. One of the things I think we wanted to talk about tonight was maybe some matchmaking. So if one team is struggling to recruit members, maybe somebody who's a couple years in can share some ideas with how it's worked for them, or other topics. We did also ask about workshops, people who might want workshops on coding, for example, the different ways of getting into Java for the competition, and a workshop on mechanical build options. So we're also scheming around trying to, again, from this community, pull together some people with experience in one area or another to help bring everybody along. So point being, we understand there are challenges. My teams definitely have some challenges, but I really feel great about the fact that we have 20 people on a call right now who are more or less all in the same boat or in a similar boat that might be able to share an oar or a paddle. So that was the sort of the summary of this. John or Doug, want to add anything on this?
Well, I first of all, I want to say thank you very much, Chris, for putting this together. I think it's, this is a great example of how we're all working. I'm thinking that, you helped put this together. You and Michael and Kimberly, put together the unboxing event. Sean hosted the reveal event. And I'm hoping that we can use this kind of community to lighten the load and as you said, share. I guess the one thing I did want to talk about, I hope, you, as you pointed out, you're not alone in this. There are several teams, quite a few teams that are struggling, because of the challenges of COVID. And I think the one thing I want to reinforce, we've talked about this at the other two meetings, that these are exceptional times and anything goes. So there's no wrong way to do this. And, honestly, this is all about having fun and having the participants, the students have a great time. And so whenever if it gets too gnarly, we can use this as a training year. There is no failing really. Each team can do whatever it can. And so don't feel bad, but also don't feel bad about asking for help. So there are several teams, and it may be that we'll actually end up with teams that can't do anything this year. And in that case, We may even have some additional components so that if you have a large team, let's say you're an existing group and you want to Paul in South Burlington, if you want to split your team into sort of a junior varsity and varsity, we may have equipment that could help. So I just want to make sure that this stuff actually gets in the hands of people and in the hands of students, and students enjoy it and get some training that would enrich them and would perhaps position them better even in subsequent years. So I just wanted to, again, say there's no wrong way to do this. And that we may be looking, if you can think of opportunities for other people to get involved, we may be able to help them out. One person's inability to move forward might be an ability for somebody else to move forward. Any questions? How are people feeling?
I'm feeling a lot better after our first team meeting tonight.
Tell us about that a little bit, Chris. I mean, what did you do?
It was the first time we had some, not all, but some of the kids actually get together on a Zoom call. We haven't been able to meet in person yet. And we went through the competition outline. We went through some, the goals, the big goals of FTC. And then we got into a brainstorming session about, what's going to be needed. What do the robots need? I would call it a functional deployment. What do the robots need to be able to do? So take one step at a time. And so we start, first, I think the first thing that was mentioned was they need to be able to move a wobble goal. And then we broke that down. What does that look like? If you were to go and move a wobble goal, what would you have to do? And so it was just really energizing just to get the dialogue going and to get the design process and problem statement and problem solving juices flowing. It wasn't long before we had somebody on the team step up and say, well, we're going to have to be doing some computer vision here. I was like, well, all right, jump in.
By the way, I got notice from Pittsco that the cameras were just shipped today. So you're all getting cameras too.
Oh, we are?
Nice.
Yeah.
My day just got better, John. Wow.
I just feel like Oprah Winfrey. Just look under your chair. Yeah.
So anyway, that I don't know about, Jackie was there, Jeannie was there, and Carl was there. I feel a ton better getting the ball rolling, and starting the conversation.
Yeah, I thought it was really, this is Jeannie. It was really neat to see the kids problem solving in real time and just like the various directions that they came from. So my big worry was that we were going to have teams of kids who were just sort of like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but that absolutely was not the case. So we've got a lot of kids with a lot of very specific kinds of knowledge. So it'll be fun.
One comment on that is I found an interesting thing is I talked to more of the adults, especially the adults associated with the new teams. They spend a lot of time going, oh my God, I don't know this stuff. Well, I've learned, as I told several of you, I'm building a robot too, because I didn't want to, be asking people to do something that I wasn't prepared to do. And it's been the students who've been able to help me out. Sriram on the call here, I don't want to give away my sources, but he is a killer programmer and has really helped me up my game. So I think actually that we should have a lot of confidence that the students are going to figure this out and train a lot of us. So that's an interesting observation. Anybody else have experience from either good or bad from meeting remotely or meeting, anything like that? Anybody else doing stuff like BAM is doing with Zoom calls?
Well, I was with the BAM group tonight too. And my thinking is even just hearing from the kids, even if we weren't able to meet, one person could sit at home with the parts and have kids tell us what to do. And so I think we can remotely build too. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But I was so happy to hear, John, when you said we do what we can do in this time. If we don't get to the competition, that's okay, because this is a very, very different year. I'm personally, I'm very goal centered, and I want to know when, where, and how far to go. And so that relieved a lot of my anxiety. And hopefully when Chris told the kids the same message, I'm sure that relieved their anxiety too.
Yeah.
They weren't behind.
This is totally not about pressure. You know, we encourage everybody to sign up. First, we should put that in here, is you should sign up for the championship, even if you don't know whether you're going to get there or not, because we want to make sure that we have enough spots. But if that's not in the cards for you, it's okay. What the only thing that isn't okay is not trying and not playing with this stuff, because it's really fun. So yeah, anything we can do to alleviate pressure and optimize, fun, that's really what this is about. So that's good.
John, Richard had something to contribute.
Yeah, Richard.
Sure, thanks. So we are a team that we are meeting in person. We are meeting at the school, not during normal school hours. And the school has picked the schedule for when the room is available and can be cleaned appropriately afterwards. We have to comply with all the social distancing. All our kids, I mean, they locate desks, are all marked on the floor, and the kids have to sit at the desks and stuff like that. And we have one person who distributes parts to the kids, and all of that kind of thing. And so we're insisting on, that they go through some design process, not just do what they did last year, which was, they all dug in the bin and built whatever they wanted, and the creativity really flowed that way. And it's frankly been a struggle, because last year the kids were used to saying, okay, we're just going to build and see whether it works. And now we're going through some design phase first, and getting them to think of a design and try and figure out how to put it together without necessarily having a excellent understanding of what parts there are, or how those parts even fit together. They're having a lot of trouble with, creating those creative ideas without being able to dig in the bin and throw things together. And so that's one challenge. The other challenge is that the school has dictated when we meet. And frankly, it's not convenient for a lot of the students. And so we have members of the team. We've had I think 5 or 6 meetings so far. And we have members of the team that have yet to be there because they have conflicts with all the times that the school has available for us. And so that causes challenges as well. And so, we've got a series of these things, and we're losing a little bit of the fun factor. I mean, the kids aren't digging in the bins. The kids aren't, sitting there all huddled together with their heads right next to each other. They're located at desks that are separate, and they're working on separate things.
Is there any way you can meet occasionally at someone's house, or are you prevented from doing that?
The school does not control what happens out of the school. They've been very clear with that. But they've also, because Montpelier schools have had positive cases, they've been very concerned about people complying with their social distancing rules outside of the school if they can. They don't control that, but if we met at a person's house and didn't comply with, a 6-foot distance and not sharing any tools and things like that, then they wouldn't be able to go to school for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So frankly, it has been a challenge, and those people who are frankly more experienced, who have been with the team for 2 years, they're like, okay, I know what I want to do. I can plan this out, all of those things. But the new kids or the younger kids, they're struggling.
Mhm.
And we've already lost. We've had a couple of kids who have said, I'd like to participate next year, but this year with COVID, it's just not worth it. And so they're no longer even trying to attend. And so I'm concerned that we've lost some of the fun factor. It's still fun for those with experience, but it's not fun for everyone.
Yeah. Are other people experiencing that same sort of, I think it's an interesting perspective because for some people, they don't know what it's normally like, but how does that, what are some of the other teams feeling about that? Are they experiencing the same?
Hi. So I'm from the RoboHawks at CVU, and last year we went through a lot of problems with communication because we switched into being a class. So one of our things was that we had to focus on communication to actually get a good grade. So we really worked on that in the design process. And what we've been doing this year is actually just a lot of Zoom meetings where we put all of our ideas on a doc and someone shares their screen and we go through them and we pick at each other's work and just what they've been doing. And then I've actually been out for about a month because I had to go out of state, and I've catted up a design and sent it over to the guys to build for me when I couldn't be there. So that's how we've kind of dealt with that. For our club members, so we're trying to limit exposure since we're a pretty small group of like 12 and 3 of us meet 1-2 days. We're in different cohorts. It's kind of a mess with that too. But how we've worked with that is having the other cohort work on a separate mechanism together rather than trying to split a mechanism between cohorts.
So Eva, does like one of the cohort take home one of the bins of stuff and the other cohort takes another stuff? How does that work?
So we do most of our documentation and idea planning at home, and then we come into school ready to build. And that's how we've been working with that. So then like when you're there, you're building, you're not like arguing about like the design and that stuff. And we made sure that we had a lot of the supplies that we needed at the end of last year and the beginning of this year so we could get right into building. Another way we've been keeping our club members more like trying to keep them active, which Kaylin can talk about, is they each can make their own Arduino robots at home. So we're making take-home kits for them. And I think Kaylin should talk about that. He's on the team and he designed that project.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So they aren't quite at the level of an FTC bot, but they're about $15 a bot. So pretty cheap. You can do all the programming CAD work virtually. So we've just been doing virtual club meetings, and they can work on their design, programming, all that at home. It just uses a couple of cheap, like 9-gram servos for the wheels, and then an Arduino compatible microcontroller with Wi-Fi for the brain. So we can eventually they can control them just over an iPhone or any internet browser.
What are you actually? Would you be? Is that like a kit that you all developed, or like?
No, it's not a kit, but I can share. I'll put in the chat a link to the
Nice. Yeah.
So,
and
Kaylin, are you
Kaylin?
I'm curious. Are you coding
Go ahead.
in Java somehow? Like, is the code transferable? Maybe we lost Kaylin.
You might have been lost, but I can speak to that a little bit. The code is in C.
Okay.
So not quite the same, but the syntax is pretty similar to the kind of Java code that FTC uses. So
So are you
And
using?
it comes
using
with the advantage.
I
Okay,
would think that
cool.
you could work out the general logic and
Yeah.
flow,
Yeah,
but
that's
you
great.
have to massage it.
And I can actually post a link to the GitHub in the chat that has all of the code we're using for that.
That's an amazing
That would
idea.
actually be really interesting.
Yeah.
That's a great
Sorry,
idea.
I cut out a little bit.
Who pays for the kits? Oh, Kaylin, sorry, are you back?
Yeah. So I'm back. Sorry, I lost internet connection for a little bit there.
Because your robot
But,
was hogging all your Wi-Fi.
Yeah. We have paid for the kits. We are fortunate enough to have the money to do that. We've got about 20 kits we've bought. I think they're cheap enough that if a team didn't have the resources, $15 isn't that much. Every member could probably pitch in that much and buy their own kit. Yeah.
So you're using ESP2866.
Yeah.
And the Arduino IDE.
Yes, which can actually be run on a Chromebook.
Uh-huh.
Most of the students don't need to do that, but it's a little complicated, but we've had to go through our school's IT department to get them to enable a certain setting. But
because of Wi-Fi, yeah.
so it actually runs on a Linux virtual machine on the Chromebook, which Chromebooks have by default. Our school had disabled it, but they were willing to enable it for certain students.
That's pretty
Kaylin,
interesting.
can you share a picture maybe, just so then?
There's a picture at the top of the curriculum document.
Oh, okay.
Did you not get that?
Is that the Google Docs?
The last one I shared
Oh,
is
wow.
bill of materials.
And are you cutting those out on like the laser in Olaf's
Yeah.
makerspace?
So that's the only part of this project that the students are coming in to do, is to cut out their the vehicle chassis. If you don't have a laser, it could definitely be done in a traditional shop. The picture is actually out of acrylic. Club members have just been using wood.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Do you have the source code for your Wi-Fi app, the phone app?
It's actually not an app. It runs directly in your web browser. So you connect to the Wi-Fi network created by the the microcontroller, and then just type in the IP address into the web browser, and you get it. It sends it the HTML.
That's pretty cool. Well, I think do you mind? Now, this is interesting because the coaches were all on a Slack channel. Are you part of the Discord? Do you do the Discord thing that Mike Cole's group set up, or?
I don't think so. No.
Would you be willing to sign up for our Slack and post these, or could we? It'd be kind of nice if,
yeah,
we would. I don't think there's any reason why we wouldn't want to do that, but yeah, let me I'll in the thank you in the when we send out the recording, I'll have a link for sign up on the Slack, but it'd be great for you to print this. Now, I do want to comment that, I think this is really cool because in the intent of actually learning how to do stuff, this is a really great idea. I'm trying to figure out, so now I think one of the questions before was, how does this help you progress on your FTC stuff, or is that not the point?
Well, what I heard
this project. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just to see if I'm getting this right. I mean, what I heard from Eva and Kaylin and Isaac was what they did was they found a way of dispersing the materials and the tools that were needed to do the work. And so instead of having everybody come to the stuff, get the stuff out there and prioritize the time together on building, and use the time away to come up with ideas and problem solving and whatnot. So I feel like the Arduino platform is just a way of getting more controllers in the game. Which is great.
Yeah. So the main team members for our team haven't been doing this. We've been doing this with upcoming team members. A lot of us are seniors this year. So we've been using this as a way to hopefully recruit some new members for next year.
Yeah, because we have like an actual in-school formal course, and then we have an after-school club. And normally we'd have a big group of people come after school to our club, but obviously because of social distancing, we can't do that. So right now we basically just have a few core members of the team, most of which are seniors, but we do have some lower classmen. And then all of the newer people who haven't participated before are doing this Arduino project so that we don't have to have a bunch of people.
Oh, it's so clever. It's clever. Just in this interest of kind of moving on, so we'd like to post this because I think it's, you know, in terms of the intent of getting hands-on, this is a really inexpensive way of doing it. Sean, is there anything, how is your practice doing?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we were lucky. We found a place that we could meet, a very large place that we could socially distance and meet, and had Wi-Fi. It was an old airplane hangar. And we were able to meet there for 6 weeks. We made the most of our opportunity there. And yeah, it was great. We had people that met that were there for most of the meetings. We had some people that did remote for all the meetings. We had programmers. We had a programmer who did a lot of the work on building and kind of experimenting with some programming. He was completely virtual. So, but I feel like the whole time we had our Discord up, we had, you know, a big projector showing on the wall of the hangar, you know, like our Discord stream to our team members. I think that was really helpful. When we got time to actually, like the last week or so, we were actually running a robot. We had members with their phones, you know, with the Discord app, and they were able to like make sure that the members who weren't there were included. And like I said, one of our programmers, we had three kind of programmers returning, and one of them was remote, and they worked really well together, kind of like committing and uploading and trying out code and working with each other remotely. So, which is a great experience because that's where I am right now. And it's something that, you know, I've been in software development for like, you know, 30 years almost now. And, you know, the last 9 months have been, you know, totally turned upside down with all this remote and working together. So I think it's great that they're learning this now.
Sean, if I may add, something that just like relates to, sorry, hi, I'm Jake. I'm also in I'm in Bobert Innovations is our, I'm in Sean's group, and something to add about one of the people who's remote, it's similar to what was just being talked about how they have these robots where you can test the code at home. One of our programmers who's remote, Jack, he's one of the things he's been working on, and he'll just be on Discord while we're all doing things. He asks us to test every once in a while on the actual robot. He's working on I'm trying to think, but it's essentially like a way to test your codes. It's basically like it's like a simulation software, right, Sean? Is that to like test your coding, just so that you can get the autonomous code to work without having to look at the actual robot. He's building like a software that basically is the robot in the field.
Oh, wow.
But you have to have the robot in the field.
Is that something you could all share?
That would be something to ask Sean, because I don't have access to the code. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's something, you know, so, you know, it's our 3rd year programming FTC. Like I said, the 3 programmers have been, doing FLL for several years. A lot of these kids are doing AP computer science this year in high school, and I'm sure that's something that we could arrange something to kind of show. And it actually is interesting too, in that course of, now our third year, we went from, doing on-bot block language to, which was a, really easy transition from the Lego stuff to, Java last year. And then this year we're doing the whole Android Studio system where they're committing everything and they're learning about, commits and branching and merge requests and things like that. So that's kind of cool too, because that's all real world stuff.
Cool. That's the real world. Yeah. Actually, on that topic, I'm looking for, as I said to you on the phone today, Sean, I'm looking for somebody, and I need some Android kernel hacking help. So if anybody on the phone knows of anybody who's very advanced, I have to do a simple kernel hack for something I'm doing. I'm trying to create a remote drivable robot, and I have to do something in the RAM disk that for the Android. So if anybody on the call knows that stuff or knows someone who does, let me know. Who else? Jen, have you all started to meet? I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, so you don't have to. But I was just curious how that's been. Wait, you're on mute. You're on mute, Jen. You're on mute.
There you go.
There you are.
Nope. Still can't hear you though.
Mute. 2 words sounds like. No, he can't hear you.
So Zoom thinks you're unmuted, but there might be you're muted locally on the microphone or something.
Yeah. So I'm also coaching with Jen for Hazen Union. And we've been fortunate enough to actually be able to meet in person so far, like as a class. And starting next week, we're also going to have like extra hours on the day where there's no school. So we've been fortunate enough to have that. We have a really young team because we've started. No one really has a whole lot of experience with like building or with programming. So we're kind of learning everything as we go and kind of starting from the bottom. But it's really good. I think that the kids are getting excited about what they're doing and having a good time.
Awesome.
Let's stop there. That was perfect.
Yeah, I think that was a great. Yeah. All right.
That's great.
Well, I think let's just keep this up. So as you can hear, there's all different constraints, all different approaches, and some really cool ideas. And I think if we keep sharing them on both on the Slack and on Discord, that'd be fantastic. So now, the thing that we've all been talking about is how does this work in COVID? And now our own Professor Douglas Dickey is going to tell us what we know and what we don't know about how the championships are going to work.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to try and find really quickly the slide that I filled out that had a lot more than just that one piece on. Oh, there we go.
They're all here. I just didn't want to get ahead of you, Doug.
Oh, yeah, good. Made me panic. So first and foremost, first bullet point there, first state championship. I scheduled it for March 13th, 2021. I kind of chose a date without consulting with anybody, ruling by fiat because I'm motivated because the volunteers can't really see the training until we get something in the module registered with FIRST, and then we go through our volunteer management system, and then we can start seeing the training so we can figure out what we have to do for the event this year. So if anybody has a very compelling reason why March, 13th, 2021 is not a great day, I'm open. I looked at high school schedules. I did not see it conflicting with winter breaks in general. And it's a little bit later than we normally have our event. We usually have it late in February. So this is a little bit later than a traditional season, but I think that's appropriate given how unique the year is. As John said earlier, I want to make certain everybody hears it. UVM is paying for the championship fee, so don't send us a check. I'm sorry that the registration mentioned that. It's I can't change the code. I can't edit that page. It's written in a script by somebody who's long gone. So sorry about that. But again, don't send money. Even if you make the mistake and send us money, we won't cash it. So the event that we have scheduled for the 13th is remote. And what I mean by that is we're guaranteeing at least to have a remote event on the 13th. If the world changes and we can host in person, that would be our distinct preference, and we will do that. That's really what we're good at. I think it's a fantastic event. If we can do it, we will. But I think at the very least, we will offer a remote event because we want to make certain people get a chance to show their robots and to participate and compete. So I know that was important. Some teams are pretty sure that they're going to be remote all year. And so it's hard to motivate if you're not certain you're going to have this event. So we will be having that event on the 13th. Third bullet point, I think is really kind of, it's going to, for me, be a catalyst for a very big, deep conversation about our aspirations this year and next. Because of the growth of FIRST, and there's a finite number of teams that are competing in the World Championship, think of it like the House of Representatives. Vermont's a small state, and our share of the population of teams that want to make it to World Championship justifies us just about one, maybe two slots in the World Championship. We were two for a number of years. Last year we got dropped down to one because we were growing at a slower rate than the rest of the world. So we went from 2 to 1. And one of the consequences of that is, it's worth discussing, is that the first award that is given out is the Inspire Award. So whoever wins the Inspire Award is the team that goes to World Championships from the state of Vermont. That's the way it was last year. If we have 2 awards, then it's the winner of the Inspire Award, and then the second place in the World Championship goes to the team that wins the actual competition. And when I say the actual competition, the team that has the winning score in the finals match. And you have to work your way into the finals, and then you have to win a series of matches to win the finals. The final winning coalition, the leading team, gets the second ticket to the World Championships. So if we have 2 tickets to the Worlds, Inspire and then the winner of the event. If we only have 1, it's the Inspire team. Now, let's talk about the Inspire Award. So we've got right there a very short definition. The Inspire Award is generally given to teams who achieve greatness only, in parts of the FIRST, including programming, robot design, the engineering notebook, judging presentations, gracious professionalism, and outreach. So it is your demonstrated greatness across this range of skills. It is not all about your robot on the field and how it wins that competition. Ironically, I think this matches up extremely well with the situation we're in here in the COVID year. So let's talk a little bit about FIRST and their approach to the season. I mean, the challenge of all the FIRST events at all levels every year is it's about open challenge problem solving, and how you address what's going to happen on the mat in a given year, and how you approach various components of scoring. And it's a great challenge for people to try and figure out, let's try this, let's try that. Why does this work? Why doesn't that work? And FIRST itself really spends an incredible amount of time setting these challenges up, because they know what benefits you and they know what skills they want to develop. And FIRST themselves are great problem solvers. And to have this COVID challenge thrown down, have the gauntlet thrown, I think they're doing an incredible job, and they're very committed people who are going to try and make this a great event as possible. So I will urge people to, one of the things mentioned earlier today was the team blast. I'd like to have a discussion with you earlier about who's getting the team blasts, but I urge you to read these because they are chock full of information about where FIRST stands in the evolution of the remote events. I've seen a lot of change over the last couple of months. I've seen them tinkering with things. So I don't think what you see now is the final product. I think it'll be improved consistently as we go through the season. I don't think it'll be dramatic changes, but they might enable some things that we're not thinking about. So I guess that's just like the lights coming up at the end of the Tonight Show. You're going to the next slide. Is that what we're
I
doing
just
here?
wanted to get the link for the team blast. I'll throw it in the chat. That's all. Sorry.
Oh, I'm teasing you.
Get a move on, would you?
So I want to, like, if you what you look at for the remote is it's not the same thing as the live event, don't despair. I think it's going to be better, and it's going to be what we can do, and we're going to have a great time. So now let me step back a little bit and talk about Inspire and the components of that. One thing that has been pointed out to us, so this is our 9th, 10th year of FTC in Vermont. And for many years, we've had teams from out of state come in and do extremely well. We've had winners of the World Championship twice win our tournament. And it's kind of a running joke nationally that, well, if you want to win the Worlds, just go to Vermont and compete, and then you'll be the best team once they come out. Once you get out of Vermont, you'll be fantastic. Well, that's great. But the Massachusetts teams are really supportive of what we've been doing, and they've come up and run some workshops, and they have told me that one of the things they think that we could really focus on, that we would encourage, is the development of the engineering notebook and what people are trying to do with their outreach and what they're doing with their coding. And what they mean is essentially, don't get just focused on the robot and the competition. It should be a reflective process that you try out different things, you figure out which one works, which one doesn't work, and maybe even figure out why. Maybe ask your question like, why isn't this doing what I thought it would do? Or why is the precision down on this action? And that's what I've seen from these other teams, is they do a phenomenal job of documenting the evolution of their robot. And it's a really great feedback loop, because while you're reflecting and recording what happens, you sometimes look down and say, well, I didn't write everything down, or is that really what we did? And the Massachusetts teams have said, you'd be surprised at how incredibly informative it is to do that reflective piece and to do the documentation. What that's going to look like in a remote world is going to be very interesting. Are we going to take video chats from video sections from recording a remote event? Is there going to be a scribe? I encourage teams to think about this and try and be proactive about it, and not try and create your engineering notebook at the end of the year as a look back, because that's very hard to do. And at the same time, I also think this notebook can be a tremendous guide for what you want to build as a sustainable program. What you want to start off next year is being able to go back and look at your engineering notebook and think about the skills you learned and how to go through the process. You don't just stick a paw in a bin of parts and try something out. Maybe you do. You try different things, and you project what you think is going to happen, and then you assess it. I'm not an engineer, but what I've been told is really that component. Think about it. That's what if we have one ticket, that's what's going to Worlds. So I really think we get a great benefit in focusing us on that piece of the competition, because I do think that's the one that's going to give you more long-term success for your team and for individuals. That was a long speech. I'm exhausted.
It was good. It was good.
Oh.
I think that whole point is that I really like that idea that, engineering in general, and first specifically, is about innovating under constraints, as is most of, if you're going to go into engineering or science, it's always about that. And that we're kind of experimenting on ourselves, and first is experimenting on us. And isn't that cool? I really like it. I'm super impressed with how adaptable the organization and the groups are. So I think that's really cool. We will look back on this and smile.
Yes, we will. So it'd be really curious if anybody who's had a team for 2 or 3 years, if you want to chime in and talk about how this aspect of your team has evolved, or any lessons, because how to start, or what you wish you'd done differently at the start, because I think this is an area a lot of teams could use some guidance.
I'll jump in here.
Thank you.
So yeah, one of the things in here too is about outreach, and that's really something that, especially when we jumped to FLL to FTC, we really saw as here's a spot where we can shine, and we have a venue, right? And it starts to create a perpetual, system for a local area to create, really great FTC teams. They're either in junior FLL or FLL Explore now, jumping into FLL and then going off to, FTC, and really getting inspired and love and getting some, real hands on engineering and programming and things like that, and working as a team. For us, outreach was kind of a natural one for us because just of our community and where we came from. We started off with some third graders, who did FLL for 5 years and then went to high school and then had the opportunity to join kind of the FTC team. But at the same time, we still had connections to our elementary schools. So that's been a really great one. And I feel it's like I said, a perpetual, feeding the system.
So you do events, you go show your robot off to middle schoolers or kindergartners or in public places?
Yeah. So one of our biggest ones, and we've done this the last 2 years, is going to the FLL event and bringing robots, bringing other teams, bringing all the the giant structures, and just having a robot of that size, compared to what the kids are running, locally. Just you see the eyes pop, and they're like, what is this, and when can I do that? And you can see that they're excited about that. We've been doing we've done Hour of Code for the last 3 years at the elementary school. So that's another big one that we really enjoyed.
Thank you, Sean. That's fantastic. I mean, that's just not just for sharing, but for all that you're doing, because that outreach works both ways. I mean, it's great for the kids to do the presentations and socialization, and to show it the opportunity for other future roboteers. Anybody? So that outreach is going to be interesting this year with the limitations. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I think creativity there, and I think people who have skills at doing stuff online is going to be fantastic. Does anybody use? I don't have anything left on this slide. Chris? Do you want to go to the next slide? Because I don't want to give us time to have a discussion. We have 0 minutes left. I want to make sure we save time for that.
Yeah, this is just if you can go ahead and Chris, just go ahead and click those in.
Yep.
Nope.
Sorry, give me a sec. Clicked on a link. Animations. Here we go.
So, these kind of town halls are really good for us as a community to sort of see how everybody else is doing. Hopefully it makes you feel a little bit less alone, a little bit, maybe get some ideas. So we're going to, if you agree, we'll keep doing these. But a couple of things is I really encourage people to join the Slack community. I should also put the Discord. The Discord is more for the students themselves, and that's fine. But anybody is also welcome to join the Slack. I have found it, while it's not, bubbling hot all the time, I find that I can reach people and get help and stuff like that. I think that would be a very helpful thing as we go into the winter months to be able to say, does anybody know X, or, hey, I've got this piece, does anybody have a spare motor I could borrow, that kind of stuff. Douglas and Chris also mentioned before the Team Blast sign up. There's the list, the link. We'll put that in the minutes. I just started getting them. I'm getting a ton of first email already, but I find that they're very, very full of. They're really helpful. Yeah. Oh, look, somebody signed up for the Slack. That's great. One thing that I really encourage you to do if you're one of the team coaches is check into firstinspires.org and look at at all of the material that's there on First. One thing that's very important is that you're going to need to, the coaches all have to go through and certify and go through a student safety kind of self-certification. But you're going to have to register the students there eventually. So I have a feeling that because a lot of the new teams that I ended up doing some of the registration because of the tax, so you didn't have to pay taxes on it, that you probably haven't explored First Inspires enough. much. So please take a look at that. The main thing that we want to be doing in the coming month, couple of 2 months, is to start to put on a combination, and we're looking for input on this, of workshops, tutorials, maybe open office hours. And what we're really interested in is what folks need. And it was great that Chris put that in. We got some concrete idea of who needs what. Like I found through Joe Chase, one of the Essex dads, his kid has long since graduated, is still very interested and is very good in the Android stuff. And he has proposed a multi-session thing on the Java programming using Android. And if you click down a couple times, Chris, you'll see he's kind of proposed, go ahead and click, he's proposed a few topics that each one of these things would be an individual recorded session. And, how to do source control with Git, how to start with Android Studio, sensors and state. And what I'd like to do is, we now know how many people would like some software training. We'd like to get a similar thing, maybe first in the blocks language. So we really want to do that. So we're going to try to get a more robust conversation going in the Slack about which of those we're going to schedule. But I have found somebody who's willing to teach the Java class, and if people are interested, I'm going to go ahead and schedule that. So hopefully that'll be useful. We're also going to have some meeting. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, is it worth asking if anybody on the call is willing to do a blocks intro?
Yeah, I heard Sean speak lovingly about blocks.
Perfect.
No, wait, Sean, are you interested in doing that?
I'll find someone to do it for you.
That'd be great.
Okay. And it could be a student.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be totally into having a student do it. But I think that we would start with that, then we'd move on to Java and Android Studio. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Seems like we got a bunch of first-year teams that are probably going to be starting with blocks. So
I think that there are teams that want to get started with Java and that have used blocks in the past. And for instance, our team wants to use Java this year, and all previous years we've used blocks. Okay. And so they're fairly familiar with blocks, but they don't like it anymore and they want to move on. And we've got a couple of them that are in an AP computer science class and things like that. And so they're going to be getting into that. If there's any jump start that could be offered sooner rather than later, that would be great.
Okay. That's good to know. Well, we're going to try to do them both in relatively quick succession. I hear what you're saying is you don't necessarily have to put them in series. I think anybody, the basic, my experience with these is you will eventually outgrow the blocks, but it's a really good, easy way in. So, okay, we'll take that, Rick, into account. That's good to know. Any other comments on, we've also heard that there were some requests for mechanical build sessions. If anybody has any other suggestions for topics, either blurt them out or get them in the Slack. Yes, Douglas.
Thank you, John. I'm just curious if people have thought about the project management aspects of a first season, and if anybody is using Agile or Waterfall, or if anybody really is curious about going that route.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about that. The CVU RoboHawks since last year have been trying to use the Agile method. And we've sort of had like a format of, we do a sprint. Last year was for about a month. We're talking about whether we should keep that the same this year. And then we would have just a Scrum board, which would have stuff that's not done, stuff that's prototyping, brainstorming, etc. And one of the things we were actually able to do this year was incorporate our engineering notebook entries into each of the actual tasks we have on our Scrum board. And to do that, we've been using a software called Notion. So if any teams are looking for a really easy way to do project management and also incorporate their engineering notebook at the same time, I'd really recommend that. And it works really well with sort of the agile framework.
I'm just going to throw this in. I don't want to belabor the point. That was very great information. Thank you. Very helpful. I heard a conversation at World Championships when I went there, however many years ago, and there was a discussion between some of the top teams, and they said, oh, it's all about project management. And when you decide between agile or waterfall, you decide you're making the decision whether you're going for the Inspire Award or whether you're going to win with your robot on the field. And I listened to the conversation. It was incredibly thought-provoking for me. And I really came away with the idea at the time, this is one of the most important decisions people make if they're going to go this route. And all the good teams went this route. And it's just a little piece. I don't know whether, I'm not saying people should do it. It's just a little piece of information I want to share.
I like this idea of having a project management session. Do we know who might be able to?
Yeah, John, do you remember meeting the guy who has the project management company when we met at Generator? Maybe we could check him.
Vijay Desai.
Isn't that his field?
Yeah.
I actually have a connection with VJ.
Perfect.
If you want me to reach out to him, I got his
Who's
son.
Who's offering you service? Is that Stephen?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I know both of them. That would be great, Stephen. Would you?
Yeah, I took his son to Washington D.C. for national championships like 3 times. So.
Oh,
he owes you.
They're such a great family. Would you please reach out to him and
Sure.
And let him know that we're all working together, and I think that'd be helpful. Hey, Chris, can you if you could refresh the screen? I put the Discord link on there as well. You might have to.
Yep.
Or is that like asking for trouble?
No, we can do it, John.
Click. Let's
Working
see.
on it.
Click.
Yep. Boom. There's Discord.
Yeah, there's the Discord link. And then, one thing, the next one is we were talking about, we're going to have a special meeting for hubs. I talked to Chris Gray yesterday. So Jen, Chris, and Pete Simula, we're going to get a meeting together to try to, work out what does hubs mean in this climate. So we're Doug and I are going to be scheduling that in the next couple of weeks. That'll be a smaller meeting. Anybody's welcome to come, but it's specifically around the hubs. And is that the only thing? Is that the last thing on this slide? Oh no, what else? So whatever help, one other thing that's come up is, do you think it makes sense to have a place where we keep useful links and resources? I would have thought so, but people have told me, one person's useful link is another person's trash, and if nobody maintains it, I mean, what other things could we do? What other resources could we make available to get help?
I personally think it's good to have a page that lists all the resources, just similar to this, and with notations. So it keeps it all in one place. Personally, I have 6 pieces of paper in front of me, and it's a matter of shuffling and finding links and finding this. But if I see it right there, I have the paper, I can just point and shoot.
Would Doug, could we use the FTC page of UVM for that?
I would love to be the steward of this resource page.
Okay.
You're going to send the link?
Well, I got to create the page first, and then I'll send the link.
Yeah, but we already have a web place to put it. And I think that's probably a good findable spot.
Yeah.
I mean, things like Slack are not very good at that kind of stuff. And so I think a web page might be a good place for that.
So not quite a resource, but an important conduit. Everybody knows that we hopefully everybody knows we have a new team coordinator this year, Kimberly. And I would urge you to keep an eye out. If you see her name, please read that text or that email, because that will have information such as where this resource page will be. So I don't think you'll get a ton of communications from her, so please consider them important. And on that end, we would all say happy birthday to Kim when she watches this later on. I'm sure she will.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to Kim.
Birthday.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, Chris.
All right. I was just wondering about the whole 4-H being connected with First and Everything. So I've been a 4-H member since I was 8. I was wondering, is there funding linked with that, and is there a push for that in clubs, or would that be a question for her?
Chris, do you have any knowledge about that?
So my understanding, Eva, is that the 4-H connection really came about primarily as a result of John and Doug securing the grant funding through FTC. So I think the funding that's available is, as I'm aware, is the funding that has come through so far. Is that right, Doug?
Slightly correct that. The 4-H connection really mainly comes from Mike Cole, who was just looking around for something to do and found First and decided to get his 4-H team involved. And we've had a number of 4-H teams involved. And Kimberly was hosting, Mike wanted to host an event. Kimberly offered to do it, ran it through the 4-H, and that's how the connection was formed. Found Kimberly, she's an incredible asset, good ambassador. So she's showing the opportunity to a bunch of 4-H teams. I don't know if there's any funding there. She would be the source of information on that, but they already have a great STEM network. And if they're a source for mentors or things like that, that's fantastic. So
there definitely is
intentional.
There definitely is outreach through existing clubs, through existing 4-H clubs, whether or not they're robotics clubs or 4-H Lego robotics clubs. But there is outreach. I'm not sure of the funding opportunity.
Okay. It was just a question because I've been looking to do some activities for my club because we're mostly course club.
Great. What whereabouts are you located?
So we meet in Westford.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been trying to do some activities to introduce them. They're mostly younger members, and
I'll catch up with you and get Kimberly in the loop, Eva. That's great.
Awesome.
That's really cool.
I have something that's like not related at all, but as we're wrapping up, it felt appropriate. My team, something that we're going to, we'll put it in the Discord probably within the next, let's say week to month, because this is 2020. Just timing is fun. One of the things that we're trying to do for like outreach throughout the teams, and because we can't meet in person, one of the things we wanted to do was we're starting a separate like a Discord server that's going to have like games. Well, not games, but it's going to be like a place where different teams can come and then everyone can like play games together, and not like Catan or Jenga, but like Minecraft or other things on the internet, if you will. So yeah, and so we'll put that in Discord at some point in the not too distant future.
That'd be cool. How do you get the word out on that?
We're gonna put it in like there's like a Vermont first team Discord thing, and
Okay.
I'll either put it in there or I will give it to one of the coaches, probably Sean, and Sean will do magic communication things that I am not as good at. So, yeah.
I have a question for you all. I mean, you know, we're using Slack reasonably well for the kind of administrative stuff, and I know that the students, you know, the teams are actually using Discord well. Is that the way it should be? Or should we all be piling on one place or the other, or is it okay that we have these two different bases for different purposes? What does anybody think?
I mean, personally, I think it's fine having the two things. Discord's really good for like meeting and in-person communication, just like short-term communication, where Slack, I think, is better at like organizing actual work. Right?
Yeah.
Anyone disagree or agree?
I think that makes sense, actually. That makes sense. All right. Any other topics? We've had pretty good discussion all the way through. So unless anybody's got another topic. Okay. So the only thing I was going to say about what's next is, what we're planning on doing. We still could use extra mentors. We've talked about that. Please join the Slack and the Discord if that's, whichever suits you. We're going to try to keep a steady cadence, especially because of this year, as we're all having to go back inside and kind of lock down a little bit more. We're going to have a steady stream of these kind of events. We'll try not to clutter it up, but these workshops, etc., just to keep a sense of community, just so that everybody feels like we're moving this along, and we're totally open to anything. And I wanted to say one more time how much we appreciate the sort of grassroots, Sean hosting the reveal, and Chris and Mike and team, all those, doing the unboxing, and so all of that, anything, if you got an idea of something you want to share, I think we would all very much appreciate it. So with that, the championship is leading up to March. That should all. Please, also, one thing that we didn't say here is that please go to the link that came out in the invite to this meeting, and make sure that you are signed up for the championship. If there, I would really encourage you to do that. Again, UVM CEMS has waived all the registration fee. It's better to save your place there in the chance that you are going to compete, because even if you, a week before you decide that you don't want, you're not going to compete, it still would pay to watch it because it's going to be remote, and we would have no trouble filling the spot. So I would, if you're inclined to do that, make sure you sign up now, and that way we'll hold your spot. And if something comes up, no sweat. So Douglas, anybody or Chris, anybody want to add anything? 23 Vermont teams. That's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's 5 to 7 more.
Then what?
2 that we haven't tracked now that we need to get to sign up. So I think there's around 28 to 30 teams you said earlier. So we're only missing
Right.
5 to 7.
I think we have
We will
24.
track them down.
Oh, somebody signed up since then.
Yeah, I think you'll get Robo Raiders U32 has something going with in the classroom.
It's great. Well, for years every year we've run a state championship with 32 teams. We've never even gotten to half the teams being Vermont. 15 was our high water mark. So the goal to get to 32 it's within reach. It'd be fantastic.
Though the ballots are still being counted.
Correct. Well played.
That
John.
one hit too close to home.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we actually had a planted joke. What was it? Oh, the survey. Yes, if you haven't done the survey, please do it if you're a coach. And we were thinking, what was the joke, Chris? We were thinking of closing it off.
It was
I don't remember
Doug's
what the
joke, so
was.
I knew I'd never do it justice, so I didn't even bother.
I think the joke at the time was thank everybody for filling out the survey. And I'm sorry we had to take it down early. There were too many lawsuits that were filed.
Right.
On that cheery note, I want to thank everybody for coming and for helping put this together, and for some of the great ideas, and for the volunteering, which you did either intentionally or unintentionally. So we really appreciate it.
Great.
This is going to be a fun and interesting
It
year.
is. Thanks,
Great.
folks.
Great talking. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
And again, happy birthday, Kim.
Happy birthday, Kimberly.
Bye.
Leave.
Thank you.